Good morning, and welcome to the UU Church of the South Hills, also known as Sunnyhill. We're delighted that you could join us for this service. Our mission here at Sunnyhill is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. My name is Krista Stanley, and I serve as a worship associate for this congregation. If you're a newcomer or a visitor to our congregation, please go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says New to Sunnyhill to receive more information about our congregation and to receive our weekly email newsletter. If you're joining us online today, please say hello or good morning in the comments on Facebook or YouTube. We'd like to hear from you and extend a warm welcome to you as well. Today's service will be led by Sunnyhill member Dean Hazelton. He was brought up in the Unitarian Church and has been a member of Sunnyhill since 1991. During that time, he's grown and learned a lot by serving on the board for 3 terms, leading the book group and poetry group, facilitating chalice circles and sharing circles, and acting as a sous chef and dishwasher at various Sunnyhill gastronomical extravaganzas. Dean is especially proud of having served as co-chair of the Old Sunday Service Committee for about 10 years and leading numerous services. He notes his crowning Sunnyhill accomplishment as winning a soup and chili cook-off against the most imaginative and creative competition this congregation has to offer. We are so pleased to have Dean with us this morning, sharing his talent of sermon writing. Dean's sermon, titled Imagine That, will explore the ways that we combine imagination, memory, and creativity to bring meaning to our lives. The service will feature his favorite storytelling form, poetry. Our opening words were written by Dean. Sunnyhill Sunday. The faces of my dear friends shine like chalices. Together we seek meaning and learn from one another. Please join me in reading the words for lighting our chalice. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Good morning. We'll do our opening hymn in just a minute, but I wanted to take a moment to say a quick thank you to Elise Reichenfeld and Doug Reichenfeld today. They're going to be providing some special music for us and helping out with hymns. And Doug's also going to be playing for us for hymns, so I appreciate that. But we're starting with a round in a cappella, so please rise, embody your spirit to sing with us. We're singing Sing and Rejoice. So we're going to sing it through maybe twice together, and then I'm going to ask you to split yourselves down the middle. Don and Trish are against each other. And I will lead this side. We'll start, and Elise is going to lead you guys. So all together now. Sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, let all things living now sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, let all things living now sing and rejoice. Once more all together. Sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, let all things living now sing and rejoice. Okay, my side. Sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, let all things living now sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, let all
Good morning. Our Time for All Ages is called Daniel Finds a Poem, and it's a little book by Misha Archer. And we've got a few kiddos present, but since I don't have the picture book, if you just want to come up to the front rows if you'd like so you could see the slides closer, you're welcome to. If not, you could stay in your seats. Daniel finds a poem. Daniel knows all the rocks, trees, and animals in the park. On Monday morning, Daniel sees something new on the park gate. A sign reads, "Poetry in the park, Sunday at 6 o'clock. "What is poetry?" Daniel says. He looks up in surprise when he hears Spider say, "To me, poetry is when morning dew glistens." Come on. On Tuesday, Daniel climbs the old oak tree. He sees Squirrel. "Squirrel, do you know what poetry is?" "Poetry is when crisp leaves crunch," Squirrel tells him. On Wednesday, Daniel calls into Chipmunk's hole. "Chipmunk, can you tell what poetry is?" "Poetry? Poetry is a home with many windows and an old stone wall." On Thursday, Daniel makes a boat with a leaf for a sail and watches the wind carry it across the pond. He calls quietly to Frog. "Excuse me, Frog, what is poetry?" "Poetry," says Frog, "is a cool pool to dive into." On Friday, Daniel parts the cattails and finds Turtle. "Hello, Turtle. I have a question. Do you know what poetry is?" "I think poetry is sun-warmed sand," Turtle says. On Saturday afternoon, Daniel finds Cricket in the shade of the slide. When the shadows are long, Cricket fills the air with music. "Is this poetry to you, Cricket?" "Singing at twilight when the day is done? Indeed it is, Daniel." That night, moonlight fills Daniel's room. He hears a "hoo." Leaning from his window, he calls to Owl. "Owl, what is poetry?" "Oh, poetry. Poetry is bright stars in the branches, moonlight on the grass, and silent wings to take me wherever I go." "Good night, dear Daniel," she whispers and flies off into the night. On Sunday, the sun wakes up Daniel. He is happy when he remembers it's Sunday. I get happy when I remember it's Sunday, too. "Today is poetry in the park," says Daniel, "and I have a poem." Morning dew glistens. Crisp leaves crunch. There's a home with many windows in the old stone wall. Cool pools to dive in, sun-warmed sand to lie in, singing at twilight when the day is done. Bright stars in the branches, moonlight on the grass, and silent wings to take me wherever I go. On the way home, Daniel stops to watch the sunset sky reflecting in the pond. "That looks like poetry to me." "To me too," says Dragonfly. What is poetry? If you look and listen, it is all around you. And today, we are actually not going to sing our kiddos out, but you guys are welcome to join me in RE now if you'd like, and we are going to go straight to our special music. All right, kiddos, come on.
Till I saw the sun. Don't know why I didn't come. I left you by Don't know why I didn't come by. Don't know why I didn't come. When I saw the break of day, I wish that I could fly away. Instead of kneeling in the sand, catching teardrops in my hand, my heart is drenched in wine. But you'll be on my mind forever. Out across the endless sea, I would die in ecstasy. But I'll be a bag of bones, driving down this road alone. My heart is drenched in wine. But you'll be on my mind forever. Something has to make you run. Don't know why I didn't come. I feel as empty as a drum. Don't know why I didn't come. I don't know why I didn't come. I don't know why I didn't come.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Angela Klein, and I am a member of the pastoral care team, whose responsibility it is to reach out to members of Sunnyhill going through challenging or significant life events, whatever they may be, offering the loving presence that binds our community together. If you want to get in touch with us, you may contact us directly or call the church office or send an email to pastoralcare@sunnyhill.org. Each week at this time in the service, we share joys and sorrows submitted by members of the congregation. We share the things that we are celebrating as well as the things that we are mourning, so that they do not need to be held alone. Joys and sorrows may be submitted online from our website. After each joy or sorrow that I read, please respond by saying, "We hold you in our hearts." I have one sorrow today from Pat Murray. Pat says, "My double cousin Peggy Uhas Murray Muncie died on July 14th from lung cancer. She was attended by her son and daughter and children. This was a bittersweet event as the family had not been together for 10 years. To Pat and her family, we hold you in our hearts. Let us bear in mind all these joys and sorrows as well as those that are held too closely to be shared. All we have carried through the seasons of our lives has brought us here to this place made sacred by our coming together. May we hold all that we carry in the warm embrace of this loving community.
We invite each of you to take a deep breath into the present moment and realizing that not everyone will have access to all of these movements, but we're grateful for the skills that we do have. We invite you, as you are willing and able, to participate in this interactive meditation. Spirit of love, God of many names, we enter into this time of centering and sensory reflection. Let us shake out our arms, our hands, and rest them by our sides. Let us shake out our legs and feet and plant them on the floor. Let us stretch our heads high. Let us take a deep breath of thankfulness. Let us touch our eyes, happy to have the beauty of colors, lines, shapes. Let us imagine the beauty of the world, the flowers, the trees, the babies, the puppies, all of the things in which we delight. Let us touch our ears. Through them, we hear glorious sounds, happy ones and sad ones, beautiful songs and lonely cries. Let us listen well so that we may live fully. Let us touch our lips, for through these lips we receive the food and drink that nourishes us and helps us grow, and we speak the words that express our thoughts and feelings. Let us touch our hearts, for it is our hearts that we know and share love. Let us feel the world around us in our imagination. Let us experience the wind that cools us, the sun that warms us, and the rain that nourishes the earth and cleanses us all. The beauty of life is all around us. Let us softly say, each in our own way, thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you, nature. Thank you, world. And may we smile in delight.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold big goals, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Before I start, I'd like to thank so many people who've made this service possible. I'd like to thank especially to Krista for her good work in selecting readings and just generally running the service. And to those who provided music, Carol Carl, Mary Pratt, Elise and Doug Reichenfeld. What a great group of performers. It's just been wonderful. And Jen McLaughlin for picking such a charming book about poetry. And to Sunnyhill's tradition of shared ministry, which makes it possible for people like me to talk to you every once in a while. Tradition has it that with age comes wisdom, a deeper, wider, more accepting understanding of how things are. Well, I keep getting older. How about some wisdom, please? I'm ready. Actually, if I can claim some wisdom in my advanced state, it's just this: cherish your imagination. I appreciate it more now than I ever did, and so should we all. Sometimes we exercise it intentionally, and sometimes it works under the radar, subconsciously. I think it makes life worth living for all of us. Now, I'm notorious around Sunnyhill for pushing poetry, so you can be assured that I'm going to use some poetry in talking about imagination. One important fact about poetry that I learned from my friends in the Sunnyhill Poetry Group is that the most important thing is to meet the poem with your imagination. It's not just analysis and finding meaning or looking at historical roots. It's using your imagination. Reading a poem is a meeting of two imaginations, the poet's imagination and the reader's imagination. The poet can't do it all. You and I must bring our imaginations to the poem. Here's an example, a very short poem by the Japanese haiku master Issa. Whoops. No. Okay, I'll read it to you. I'll read it to you, and it's so short you will probably have it memorized. On a branch floating downstream, a cricket singing. Is this any more than a pleasant observation about the natural world? How do you meet this poem with the imagination? Two things jump out at me. First, Issa's cricket is out of its habitat. Crickets don't belong on branches in rivers. It's in peril. One false step and it will be drowned in the water, perhaps drenched and drowned, or at worst, lunch for a hungry trout. My imagination sees the possibilities. And second, the cricket is singing. But crickets don't literally sing, not the way humans do. If you Google cricket sounds, you'll find that the reliable sites, I use Terminex.com, report that cricket sounds are stridulations, and they're caused by rubbing their front legs together in an attempt to find a mate. So just to say that it is singing is an act of imagination on Issa's part, and it opens up all the imaginative associations we have with singing. So here's how my imagination meets the poem. This plucky cricket sings triumphantly despite its peril, affirming life even in the face of death. What a metaphor for how to live our lives. Here's another example, a short excerpt from a rather long poem titled Auguries of Innocence by the 19th century poet William Blake. And this will probably be familiar to a lot of you. To see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. What an audacious act of imagination. And what an audacious act of imagination it invites us to. We live our brief lives in small places among ordinary things. Blake invites us to imagine the infinite, the sacred, and the eternal based on these very things. This is the interdependent web of all existence taken to an infinite power. We shake pebbles out of our shoes. Now imagine those pebbles as worlds entire. Imagine Your lawn, well, it's not imagining, it's a fact. Your lawn is full of dandelions. Now imagine that each embodies the beauty of a heaven itself. And not heaven, but a heaven. And now, let your imagination run free. Imagine holding eternity in an hour. It's now about 10:30. So probably an hour ago, those of you in this room were getting ready to leave to come into Sunnyhill. And those of you at home were probably adjusting your pajamas and getting ready for another cup of coffee. Imagine that in that hour, all the time from the Big Bang to now has elapsed. Work your way back. Look around you at your friends here. Now imagine that a moment ago, before I started this sentence, that it's 3.7 million years ago. You're roaming with a band of our ancestors, Australopithecus afarensis, grazing on a hillside in what is now Ethiopia. And imagine that you're not just a human spectator. Imagine that you're one of them. This is Lucy's tribe. You're reassured by the familiar smells of the tribe and their calls back and forth and the grooming touches they offer. The tribe has found a rich patch of roots. Tonight, no one will go to sleep hungry. Life is good. Now, let your imagination take you further back in the hour. Look out of the window into the woods. Free your imagination. Now imagine a diplodocus, the same kind of dinosaur whose statue stands in front of the Carnegie Library, lumbers out of the trees, turns his neck back, takes a bite off the top of one of the branches, chews it up, and then continues moving along the side of the building. Try another, the biggest challenge of them all. Imagine that you are at the very first moment of that hour. How can we imagine the Big Bang? First, there was nothing but a singularity, a point smaller than a grain of sand. But it contains all there is and ever will be. Suddenly, it inflates, expands, explodes in a titanic outrush of being itself. Then photons escape the bonds of gravity, and everything lights up in a cosmic flash. Soon, stars wink on in huge clouds of dust. Galaxies form and whirl around immense black holes. Do these imaginative gymnastics explain what it means to see the world as Blake invites us to? Probably not, but they do give some hint of the flowering of the soul that opens itself to Blake's invitation. Of course, the imagination doesn't just open itself to poetry. We use our imaginations every day, often without even realizing it. We're creative in the way we raise our children, prepare our meals, plot our careers, plan our vacations, plant our gardens, and nurture our relationships. We sell ourselves short if we assume that the creative life, the life of the imagination, is limited just to professional artists, musicians, novelists, and poets. Though I passionately believe that imagination plays a role in all sorts of activities, I'll limit myself to just one: storytelling. Now, that itself is hugely broad. It covers poetry and prose, oral and written, and many different types of stories. But the type of story I'm interested in is telling the stories of our lives. And the reason for this is simple. Telling the stories of our lives is what gives life meaning. Those stories are about the past and the future, For people my age, many of these important stories are memoirs, sometimes bragging narratives of past accomplishments, sometimes poignant remembrances of family and friends no longer with us, and at other times, statements of regret about roads not taken. As middle-aged parents, we may tell our children our life stories to encourage them to appreciate us, or to help them understand where they stand in the family's parade or in the human parade, or to urge them to greater efforts. And when we were children, we also told life stories. Stories about what we would be when we grow up, adventures with our friends, both real and imaginary, and stories about school and playground. These stories require an interplay of memory and imagination. Some might say, what does imagination have to do with stories about the past? Surely only memory is required for this. But this misses two important points. First, imagination shapes our memories. Unreflectively, we tend to think of memory as a file cabinet full of drawers, and drawers containing individual files, and those files containing memos of experience. To remember is to open the cabinet, retrieve a file, read the memo, and return it, unchanged, of course, to the cabinet. But when you think about it, that can't be true. First, the so-called memo deteriorates from the moment it's filed. We all forget details, and some of us overachievers can forget not just details, but the whole thing. We're grateful to others for reminders, but beyond that, others often challenge our memories and tell their own very different recollections. Or we have memories of other events which get confused with the original memory, and so on. Eventually, our memories, reminders from others, stories told by others, and some complete falsehoods get all jumbled together. In response, we talk about them. We compare notes. We get reminded of things we had forgotten, and so on. After a while, the imagination, our friend, working subconsciously, sorts things out and creates a coherent memory. Such memories tend to converge with those of others. And I think that most of our memories are like this, especially memories of highly significant events. In other words, those memories which we are most likely to review, tell to others, and make part of our life stories, and sometimes, frankly, to embroider them. Sometimes this is a matter of regret. We tend to take pride in our memories and resent being told that our memories have been influenced by others. Here's a poem about memory which may have been the result of such stories. It's one of my oldest childhood memories and one that I treasure. The title is Metamorphosis. I like to think she would have known at once the brown cocoon, big enough for a charismatic moth, a Polyphemus or a Cecropia. She would have broken off a branch to take the cocoon home to show her boys. She would have told us the whole story, from egg to caterpillar to cocoon to moth. This might be a big one, she would have said, with wings 5 or 6 inches across to glide into the night. She must have kept it in a box outdoors to show us the next stage. But I remember none of this. I was no more than 4. Then the moth emerged, and it climbed up my finger. It almost covered my hand. I felt the scratchy tickle of its legs. It crawled up my arm, pulling its brown wings, shriveled, shrunken. Such an alien life, driven by blind instinct. What did it want of me? I panicked. She rescued me and moved the moth to safety. The image is so vivid, but do I remember or was I taught it? She would have told the story often to fix the lesson. Life's full of fictions, some nourishing, some not. It's how imagination builds our souls. What matters is my mother helped me see a giant moth stretch his new wings and fly into the night. I confess, I really wanted this to be a pure memory, unaffected by anyone else's storytelling. I even called my brother to ask whether he remembered it as I did. He didn't. In fact, he didn't remember it at all, and he was envious. But then I realized that this was beside the point. What matters is not my ego gratification for having a powerful memory. That would be a life story that only I could care about. It's a life story about my mother and how her curiosity and willingness to teach changed my life. There is another way that our imaginations interact with our memories in telling our life stories. When we tell our stories, it is the imagination that takes the clutter of memories and gives them form and meaning. A rambling recitation of memories, unshaped by an imaginative telling, is not a life story. It is a bore. A former minister at Sunnyhill, Kirk Lodman Copeland, used to quote the French writer Antoine de Saint-Exupéry as saying, "We live not on things, but on the meanings of things." I would add, we live not on experiences. We live not on memories, but on the meanings of memories. We create this meaning by imaginative storytelling. When a life story about a deeply shared memory is told in a creative, compassionate way, it can have a broad, rich meaning. And this is true whether the teller is a member of a sharing circle, a raconteur swapping yarns in a bar, a novelist, or a poet. Here's a poem that I wrote, which is also about my mother, telling a story of how her life nourished the whole family. Its title is Bread. Helen missed the bakeries, the old-fashioned German bakeries of Ann Arbor. Not just the smell of Christmas cookies and sweet tarts, but most of all, the bread. Ordered rows of yeasty, crusty loaves to feed the hungry scientists and scholars and their families. My newlywed parents moved to a new town that had no bakeries. The grocery stores sold Wonder Bread, regimented rows of factory bread sealed in white plastic bags, spotted with colored balloons, bags of air decorating bags of air. Cottony, spongy, dispirited, crustless, bread to stick to your teeth, not to your ribs. This was a compromise she would not make. She wrote her mother, bought new cookbooks. Bride happy and confident, she began to bake. Take flour, yeast, milk, salt, butter, Earth's simplest ingredients. Mix together until it pulls away from the bowl. Turn out the dough and take it in your hands. Stretch it, fold it over, knead it. Repeat, repeat again. Continue. When the dough gets smooth and shiny, let it rest. Now the yeast will do its work. When the dough has doubled, punch it down and let it rise again, as the growing yeast breathes life into the lungs of bread. Then bake. Breathe in the exhalations of the loaves. Remove from the oven when the crust is rich and brown. Rap it with your knuckle. Hear it answer back. Every loaf was different, some mounded and bumpy, with hidden caverns inside, others almost flat, like a prairie wheat field. We savored the chew of the crust, the texture of the crumb. She sliced it warm to melt fresh butter and turned the homemade jam into a runny syrup. No matter, we licked it happily from our fingers. Bread to feed a growing family, bread made by her hands, the wonder of bread. Now, as a storyteller, I'm counting on you to have had experiences like these. I want you to remember those experiences and then imagine the smell and taste of fresh bread or whatever food is emblematic to your childhood. Tacos, pierogies. I want you to remember the gratitude and the admiration you felt toward the person who nourished you, and then imagine those around you to whom you owe a debt of gratitude. I want to touch your imagination with my imagination. Like any intentional activity, storytelling has an ethic. UU principles apply here. Principle 4 affirms our commitment to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. This responsible search requires, for example, that we be aware of the human desire to revise and embroider our memories to reflect what we wish were true. It also counsels that some stories are toxic and we should let them go. The search requires dedication to truth, not just the little-known facts of our own lives, but the greater truths about the human condition. Some of these truths are included in our first UU principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And the second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. For me, I also remember and consider the facts of human suffering embodied in the Buddhist Four Noble Truths and the importance of mindfulness in storytelling as well as other aspects of my life. And as an aspiring poet, I take it as a principle to honor the beauty and fluidity of language, for this is a first principle of poets everywhere. And when I'm telling stories, if I can be more than just consistent with our seventh UU principle, the interdependent web of all existence, but truly feel it in my bones, taking Blake's invitation to heart, then I'll know I'm on the right track. I'll close with where I began, with the wisdom of my old age. Cherish your imagination. Here's a poem expressing just that. Its title is On My Age. My body is a flawed and damaged thing, with muscles lacking tone and gone to flab. I huff and puff when climbing stairs, my heart rebelling at its customary task. Eyes blur, joints ache, teeth rot. The roses do not smell so sweet or glow so red as once they did. Worse maladies may lie in wait. Perhaps a stroke will freeze my tongue, or dementia will steal my past and turn my future to a meaningless round of empty days. And yet, despite the losses, much remains. Words still rise in the marrow and travel with the blood to nourish the imagination. Well, it still lives, the mind's a happy child, rambling in a garden coming into bloom, playing amid green sprouts of hope. May you all share life-giving stories, expressing rich memories, and told with exuberant imagination. Our next hymn is We Would Be One, and I selected this hymn because it has very happy memories for me. This was the closing hymn which we sang every Sunday at the church, the Unitarian church that I grew up in Richmond, Virginia.
Please rise in body or spirit.
Today's designated offering will benefit UU Justice PA, whose mission is pursuing justice by voting, advocating, and making just public policies. Their current initiatives are gun violence prevention, environmental justice, good government, criminal justice reform, reproductive justice, and economic justice. They also recently launched UU The Vote PA. Excuse me. To learn more about UU Justice PA, all are welcome to join the social justice meeting directly following the service here in the sanctuary. If you'd like to make a gift via our online giving system, you can do so by going to sunnyhill.org and clicking on the button that says Online Giving, and then follow the instructions. Or you can give by text at 412-324-3130. Text the amount of your gift and the word special if you want your payment to go to our designated offering, or the word pledge if you want your gift to apply to your 2022 Sunnyhill pledge. You can also mail a check if you prefer, and you can find our mailing address on our website at sunnyhill.org. For those of you who are here with us in person, we'll be passing our offering baskets around in just a moment. Thank you for your generosity.
Let it begin, let boys divide. Step 2, learning how to lie. Let me ask a question to present day. How the hell does Eve end up with all the damn blame? All the damn blame. 2, all the dirty looks the kitty cat calls, the ones who try and throw us up against the back wall. Let me tell you something you'll understand. Only the little boys tell you they're big man. To all my sisters and all our friends, we have to thank them, please. Strength means blessed with an enemy. Oh, my armor comes from you. You make me try harder. It's all I ever do. Wanna know my armor comes from you. You make me stronger. Hand me my armor. Hand me my armor. Step 3, I see the unforgettable, incredible ones who came before me. Taught poetry, taught science, sowed quiet seeds of self-reliance, bloomed in me. So here I am. You think I'm high and mighty, mister. Wait till you meet my little sister. Oh, no, my armor comes from you. You make me try harder. Oh, it's all I ever do. Wanna know my armor comes from you. You make me stronger. Hand me my armor. Hand me my armor. What you didn't do to bury me,
Please join me in saying the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. We'll close with these words from Susan L. Van Dresser. Let us sing the magic of imagination, by which we know one another and learn the lives of eras gone by. Let us sing the magic of creation, by which we build the world of our soul and teach its wisdom to others, young and old. Let us sing the magic of our lives together, holding and shaping by the movement of breath from heart to lung, all new life that is to come. Go now with singing, go now with magic in your fingertips, touch this world with life.